Welcome to the session for Dawn's reading. It's 30th of June 2023, and we are reading Dawn with Rakesh ji. Go ahead. Sarga 3 is what we're covering today.
Yeah, Sarga 3. It's a very weighty chapter. It's quite quite a monumental chapter. Father's fall. So why don't we start with anyone and just go ahead and tell us what struck you and who wants to go first? Let's go. Who wants to?
I mean, I can go first. I really, this chapter was quite like, sad at the same time because how she kind of gets to know her real father, So at the same time, I was really like, surprised to see this. I wish it will come true one day. This Gotra memory gene, um, and there was something with Kalposh also, right? She invented the Kalposh reader to actualize her groundbreaking neuro research. Um, I don't know if in future it will come true one day, but that will be something amazing, with the AI. So that was overall with this chapter for me.
Mhm.
I can go next. Although I already shared some of my thoughts in the WhatsApp group, but what struck me were the playing with the words, like Gynocide Day, the Jalodbhav party. Like these are all references of the past. So I've never read a book which talks about these terms or words in a way that I'll remember. Like we always read them in the news, but or when we were reading Raj Tarangini. I like the. Well, I mean, it's also strange how Dawn comes to learn about her father. The way that I mean, the whole story, like you want to feel sad for her, but you also feel optimistic in the end because the mother's trying to say you have the same nature or instinct in the last paragraph that says you have the same instinct, but you will rise above it. But it's still strange. If I were to put myself in the shoes of Dawn, it's still strange to hear about your father like this. Like you want to hear that we are the good people. So something that I came from should also be the good people. I I think I didn't see it in the story though, that how bad or maybe it's just words. I think I was feeling more bad than Dawn herself about why this is happening and this is unfair. So I didn't like why I didn't like that bit. Also the belief that eventually the guy or the father will become the good guy and the mother would have done that. It didn't happen. So like it wasn't a happy ending for me because the person still got to do the devious thing that he did. So yeah, that's my bit.
I think
And I'm sorry, I just wanted to add one more thing. I don't know if this is in words or if there is something like this, that you have crossed the Vashisha singularity point, where one can exist in past, present, and future. I just wanted to know, is it something, is it reality or is it just the wording there? That was from, my side. I'm sorry, I don't know if someone was talking.
Yeah, I mean, I can go next if everybody's done. Sorry, I was late. So what I noticed right away, I think what struck me the most is I think what really shocked me was what RTG said already, that, I mean, my goodness, she's 16 years old. And in the last Sarga, Rakesh was talking about how her imagination cannot yet fathom that perhaps Yuva's dad doesn't look like her. That's where she was in the last Sarga. And now suddenly she goes from, he doesn't look like a nice guy, to seething with anger, to, like, she's gone through that entire spectrum of, he's not a nice guy, he's rude, he's disrespectful, to all the way to he's evil or he's insane, right? Because he apparently has schizophrenia, and which is untreated, and he's using opium. But it's a lot for a person to digest, right? But not once does she have any kind of doubt that her dad is in the wrong here. And I thought that was a huge developmentally, I don't know how the character jumped from not, to that level of maturity, so to speak. But sorry, that's my son. But I think it could also be the Neeti stories her mom had told her entire life, right? And obviously the other big difference, the other thing that struck me is the difference in ideologies between Dawn's parents, and that comes up, at multiple points on over and over again through all the pages. I mean, the entire chapter is filled with Dawn's comments. Like, it's about her anger. So I was wondering what kind of a rus is she experiencing? Because in the previous Sarga, we talked about the hasya, right, hasna. And in this one, I went back to that paper that we had read from. Anger. Yeah, exactly. Anger was one of it, but also I think the way her dad is portrayed, is it the fearsome? Yeah, thank you. I don't know how it's pronounced, but it starts with V. The Rus starts with V. Some Bibhatsa or something like that. I'm not able to say it, but it's how the villainous character is portrayed. So I think it's anger, but at the same time, it's also disgust, because she does feel disgusted too. So I think because I was just kind of keeping a sense on what Rus she's feeling. Other than that, I mean, those were the two big things, right? And yes, it did come back to like the Shant state for me, because oh my God, we've been through this huge upheaval. He's the most misogynistic entity on earth, right? But her mom tells her that don't forget that you have me in you too, and what's going to save us is Neeti. So there is, even though it's all doomsday, there is hope, and she's the savior, and that's what I'm looking forward to next. But other than that, I just had a couple of questions about, like, time itself had begun in Kashmir, because that's what the Kal Chakra is shown as, right? Like, is that really true? On page 42, is it really true that time itself began in Kashmir? And but of course, that was something that was on my mind. And it said that the day varies because it's determined by the solar calendar. And I was thinking, oh, wait a minute. I thought lunar calendar is the one that kind of changes every year and not the solar. So is that really is it really supposed to be solar, or was it supposed to be lunar? But then what do I know, right? These are just questions that were coming up in my head. But I'll stop talking. I'm sure there are others who want to share. But yeah, and the best thing was, I think, last thing. Rakesh, you talked about, like, we have to think about how to save our stories in the last Sarga. And I think her counter to the data deluge is that Kalaposh cat, right? I think it's on page 41, right? So, so that was significant. But yeah, I have notes, like I said, on pretty much every page, as is always the case with Rakesh's books. But I'll stop here and let someone else take over. Thank you. Sorry about the background noise.
Can you expand on that very interesting remark? You said, as is always the case with Rakesh's books.
Rakesh G's. I would not dare call you by your first name.
No,
Rakesh G's
okay.
books. Yes, I mean, I don't think we can. I mean, there's like a wealth of information in every single page, and it's like I have, like, you can't just get away with that. Look, skimming through pages, you have to read.
How do we make it in?
Yeah, there's a lot of information. Like, what is this Lake Kramasara? Like, and I've never heard of that before. And apparently, there's a renamed river
It's a
I forget.
textbook, huh?
I
Choose
had
what you want
yes.
to know
About those.
because there isn't enough time to know everything.
Exactly. No, but I mean, it's. I'm not. This is not a complaint by any means. I hope it didn't come across as a complaint. It is actually a compliment. But what I meant is that's yeah. It was honestly a compliment that it's just so much like a treasure trove. So I don't. But I don't want to take up any more time. I'm sure others want to talk. So I was not complaining, Rakesh.
Next, who wants to go next? We'll discuss all this. Very fascinating. Who
Uh,
wants to go next?
I can start adding on to, I think,
Yeah,
Anam
yeah, please. It's open. It's all open discussion. Go ahead.
very detailed. Actually, Anamika ji covered a lot of the points of curiosity I had about the renamed river and Lake Ramasara. But thematically, I think what caught my attention was, again, the Kala Chakra and the description of it. I was trying to visualize and understand what it meant for it to be have appeared in Kashmir, at the beginning of time. So that um, what I enjoyed was Dawn's insight into, like, I feel like the reason she was able to see her father for who he is because she was exposed to the right contrasts between her father and her mother. I think if she had maybe grown up and then discovered the side of him after having known him a little bit, she would be more conflicted. But having not known him, I think she's shown a lot of clarity in thought as to what he stands for, which clearly her mother got kind of like confused about at some point. And I think the other thing I was contrasting that with was how clearly her mother was approaching her assessment of Dawn's dream. Like when Dawn first explains her dream to her mom, she is very curious about Kira, and then she hears about the fact that Dawn is seeking permission, and she uses certain data points to make an assessment about what's happening in that dream. I think it shows her growth. Her wisdom has grown over time, from the time she did not really judge Arman correctly, but she's able to gauge these situations, and make some very keen observations, and that helps her make a decision about, okay, my daughter is getting good advice, she's getting the right kind of advice, and her experiences are of a certain kind. Like, I'm just seeing her change over time, as well, like the mother's journey from kind of young adulthood to a mature state as well. So that was interesting to see. I am not able to, I guess, understand the psychosis of Arman. It feels very unnatural, and of course, psychosis itself is going to present like you don't know why a certain, like, you cannot rationalize it. I think, as somebody who understands what is empathy and what is compassion for other humans and other creations, but curious to know, like, where does that come from? There's a little bit spoken about being abandoned as a child and all of those things, but for me, it just feels very unexplained in a way at this point of time. Maybe we learn more about it in the next parts of the story, but that feels like very mysterious, as is, I guess, typical of Arman. He's not revealing much about himself, chooses to hide and keep his secrets. So the contrasting nature of those values of secrecy versus transparency is very, very evident. And yeah, I think I've made notes through some of the pages. There are like references to certain folklore stories and stuff. So very, I think I would say the story is doing a very good job of exposing me to more stories I need to read and learn more about. Clearly, I have gaps in my knowledge of my own stories. So that I'm enjoying that process as with the previous book. I think reading upon different characters that are referenced. So, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Who wants to go next?
I can go next.
Yeah.
Um, for me, it was like the same feeling that I would get if I have to like read Mahabharata, the Dharm Sankat, and the analysis like how can I go against my own family, and and to come in terms with it through the process of I guess different stages of grief, I guess. So for me, the question is, I mean, when I read this last time, I did not go past this Sarga. So for me now, the question is like when so this is all her impression of what her father is, and some are facts, obviously, but I'm interested in like when she really makes a first-hand opinion of him is what I'm interested in. Like when she meets him, and will her opinion change? I mean, with that Dharm Sankat get in the way, and how it will evolve, will it get contradictory? So I'm kind of like expecting that to be answered in the future. But otherwise, yeah, it's like a struggle for her to come in terms with this, and I was also like journeying with it as she was. So one thing that I was wondering why you'd written, it says when climate change caused by the glacial melting in the Arctic. So it wasn't, I was expecting it to say it the other way around. That the melting of the like the Arctic and the Antarctic happened because of climate change. So I was kind of like wondering why you would have said that, but that's it from me. But yeah, it felt like Mahabharat, Arjun, and Mahabharat in Mahabharat really for me.
Very good. Who wants to go next? Vinodji, do you want to go next? Vishal, sorry. Vishalji?
Hello. Yeah, namaskar. Yeah, so I one of the things that I liked was that when the mother of Dawn was talking to her, she was addressing her as Kuri, and she was using some very uh, endearment kind of Kashmiri words like lol and all that. So I thought that was kind of nice. So that's what struck me. I haven't finished the chapter yet, but from what I read so far, I think those were the things, and also the Kalposh reader. I think because Kalposh is something that I have seen and felt. So I think that also was something that I liked. And hopefully something like that might even exist. I think someone else also said that before. So that's always good.
Okay. Sushma, are you there? Any comments?
Yeah. Well, I think you picked up a lot. This was one thing was a little scary. What happens to the America with this climate change? The universities are going to be now in Minneapolis. Wonder why you picked up Minneapolis. I know we lived in Minneapolis, and also I found the interesting thing was that restaurant. They named the restaurant. What is the name of the restaurant in Minneapolis? That was cool.
Sunset.
Yeah, Sunset Boulevard. That reminded me of the stuff we have gone through, and we have enjoyed that place. That's a beautiful place.
You have eaten at that restaurant
many times.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of a little scary what happens. The Harvard goes to St. Paul, and the Stanford is in Minnetonka of Minneapolis. So the world becomes so small. That was little one thing. What can happen, and these are the adversaries. The other thing was, you're right, Anamika. I think that was very well depicted here, like how this girl has matured. She's only 16 years old, and she saw. From the first visualization of the father, she just did not like him. She just had a total hatred. Something happened to her right away. And in fact, she did not, mother was crying. She did not even have a tear in her eyes, or she didn't cry, nothing. Normally a 16-year-old girl will cry, but there was no such emotions in her. She is something, and something really, really strong. I was like amazed to see how she handled it. Her father not being a good guy, and then so that was thing that I like this Vidyadhari clan. That was an interesting thing, that this is they have a special Karishma, they have those siddhis, is that right?
Yeah. Vidyadhari, yeah.
Kalposh is good. Kalposh is the inner part of the taranga. The way we make a taranga, Sunan. That is the inner part is called Kalposh. The topi part of it is Kalposh.
The white part?
No, the inner, there is a topi. You wear a topi, which is like a gold, gold thread made out of the gold thread.
Sujasan inside the white cap. Okay.
Yeah, then they put the layers of white on the top, which is like a 3 layers.
So what's the difference between Turj and Kalposh? What is Turj?
Mas lagan मतलब बुढ़ जनानस लागान तुम सोच में खानदर पर लागान
तो वो लगाते थे ना, वो ऊपर से सफेद सा. लेकिन it's a very interesting thing. Kalposh, so it's not taranga, it's different than taranga. I did not read the whole thing actually. I have yet to figure out this Kala Chakra. I was trying to read it many times. Really could not understand it so well. So if you can explain that. Also, so also there is one thing you said, which this makes me think about, like this shikara. I like that carpet, magical carpet. You think we will really have magical carpet in 3000? I want to come back. So that was it.
Actually, that reminds me, Sushma ji, I loved the description of that carpet and that chop, chop, chop sound it makes.
Yeah, chop. Yeah. Chop,
I loved it. It was fun to read.
Yeah, and is there really a Professor Mahadevan at Harvard who is toying with this idea?
Yes.
Really?
You could have Googled him. Yes.
Wow. I didn't know that. I thought I didn't know that. I didn't think of that. I'll do it next time.
Yes, that was something I guess.
I forgot to add the technical.
I have not read the whole. I read it, but I went on to the second. Schizophrenia. I don't think so. This guy has schizophrenia. Schizophrenias are not violent people, to be honest. No. So you have here the diagnosis is wrong. Something else. Psychosis is different, but he does not. They're not violent. They don't kill people. They don't do that.
Rakesh ji, you did not consult your wife before writing this book, is what I'm saying.
Oh, I didn't say that.
He hasn't killed anybody.
No, but he's changing here. Thought process is God. I don't.
He's killed 4 billion women, but I feel it's more than schizophrenia or psychosis, as it's like the
it's not schizophrenia. No, schizophrenia
tendency which has been mentioned. I think
he's sick. He's sick.
He's very
Oh,
sick. He's very
yeah.
sick, but
Then,
is he that much different than some of the people who are like him in today's real world? I mean, if you take some of these people and project them out to the year 3000, I mean, some of these people are pretty strange people
and then,
in the world of the planet. Go ahead.
I got it. There was something else. I forgot. Hmm? Okay, well, go ahead if I remember. Gautam Buddha.
Yeah. Who else? Vanita, you wanted to say something else?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know. I
Vanita,
just
yes.
joined in. I just joined in, so I don't know if somebody has already talked about it or asked you about when she goes to this nightclub with this elite club with him, and
Yeah, I was doing that.
then under they talk about the valley, and the valley was bathed in splendor and renamed Kavtar, right? So was Vatista the river, and then it was that? Is that what you're trying to tell us, that the Vatista river was changed into a Muslim name eventually? That it is that what it was a reference to? Because it's
yeah. The river was renamed. Why not? After all,
yeah,
all the
and it's
villages
like
have been renamed.
I didn't know what it meant, so I went and researched it, and of course it's like in the Islam, it's like the river of paradise for them, right? So that was very nicely put there, like you just stuck it in there. And then how arrogant this guy is. I hated him the first minute he said it's illegal only for people. He's like very arrogant, very entitled, no respect for traditions, because he says, why are you wearing your old shawl? Out with the old and in with the new. So it already tells you what kind of a guy this is. And can't believe she fell for him, like an educated, and he makes fun of her being a neurologist, right? He says you're a brain mechanic. And I laughed at it because my husband is a neurologist. So I'm like, you're a brain mechanic, nothing more. That was funny.
So isn't he an evolutionary designer also? Isn't that how she calls herself? Yeah.
So yes, it's so much now. Now I'm reading it chapter by chapter so that I keep up with you. I haven't gone on to the fourth chapter. So
No, it's only today we just do the third chapter.
But to Vinita ji,
like now.
Sorry, Sushma ji, please go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that to Vinita ji's point, I was struck by that too, like how her mother wanted what any woman was, right? I mean, he made her feel special. He made it obvious to the world he didn't have eyes for anyone else. Isn't that what every girl is pretty much looking for, right? And she says, I was lost. So that was something that struck me too. Like, in spite of her intelligence, in spite of her ability to counteract whatever he had to say, right? In spite of her lucidity of her arguments, she still has a heart, and well, can we really blame her? Like, he turned out to be that devious, right? Like, I don't think I would have been that easy to judge her, that quick to judge her. So that, how could you do it?
I think she was wanting, she thought she will fix him.
Like every woman thinks,
she wants
every woman thinks.
Projects, not men.
But she was coming from a place of love. She said she kept loving, right?
She thought it was her duty to fix the guy. So, she tests him. Isn't that something she does with the mouth? She takes a test in the mouth. She does the gene or whatever studies she's doing. I think they're so advanced.
Technique sensor.
Oh my God. These words I can never say. I don't know why you use this.
Rakesh has immortalized Kashmiri,
This is a textbook.
But I have to agree, Rakeshji, that you have shown tremendous respect for women, and especially Kashmiri women. You make us look and come across very strong and very proud of where we come from and what tradition we have to carry on and what I will carry on and give it to my child and my daughter. So I have always felt that. And it was the same with the Kota Rani, and it's same with the mother, the daughter, it doesn't matter. So yes, thank you.
Go ahead, Anamika.
that was an accident. Yeah, that was an accident. Sorry.
Well, a couple of comments. Of course, this is just a conversation. The pace of the story is now accelerating, and so I'm picking up speed. And you guys have really fallen into this rabbit hole now. And as you fell into this rabbit hole, there's a lot going on in this chapter because I want you to be completely disoriented. I want you to completely forget the world you are in. I want you to be now completely in the world that I want you to be in. And so the first question, as I've trained you, is look for the rasa. And so, quite correctly, I think was it you, Anamikaji? You said, I don't know, I saw this rasa, that rasa. And yes, there is a cocktail of rasas here. There's certainly the Vismaya, the wonder rasa, which is the overarching rasa of the book. So there are parts of it when she goes into the trout beer bar, that incredible New Year's party, that incredible techni sensor, the you know Kalposh reader, the hologram. So all that stuff, is the wonder rasa. But there's disgust. There's absolute disgust. You know, there is sorrow. There's the shokha rasa. There's krodha. There's anger, and so all these rasas are there, and you guys are obviously swirling around. But it doesn't. It's not just one of the tricks. One of the tricks in the literary trade, which you will now remember forever when you do your own writing, is that don't just make it informational, make it sensory also. So just that little sound, chop chop, the sound of the oars in the water, the oar of the carpet in the air, chop chop, that struck you. But what it did was for you is it suddenly made it very real. It was not just information, you could now actually experience it. You could sort of feel the sound, chop chop, and that sort of made it real for you. Uh, so that's a little bit from a literary point of view. Now, this again from a literary point of view, Anamikaji's interesting statement, about Rakeshji's writing. See, again, I come to the Western model and even the model that most Indian writers write, as I told you last time. Uh, what is a story? It's a narrative. There's a hero, there's some problem, there's a narrative. You keep it simple and you have a plot and all that stuff. Okay. And if you look at the way the Western world and mm, the way that even now we Indians, when we first meet each other, uh, the questions we ask are, what do you do for work, right? That's typically the first question that may get asked. And, or we may say, where do you come from? Where do you live? And, some basic question like that. But if you go back to your grandmother or even people like Dr. Mattu and others, the first thing they would do is, I guess there's a phrase in Kashmiri, Ushnavi Kadam, meaning they would try to extract how they were related to each other, how they were connected to each other. Ushnavi. They would try to say, oh, that yeah, 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 my
We
aunt is
call that
married in your.
nosiness, nosy people.
Okay, it may be nosy behavior, but it's about finding the connection, the
Common ground,
relationship,
yeah,
the
the
urgenary.
connection.
No, no, not common, not common. The relationship. How am I connected to you? How are you connected to me? And so it goes to a very profound foundation of the world, the way we see it. And that is that in our world building, everything is connected to everything. So much so that in our world, we confidently state that there is no such thing as a coincidence. There's no such thing as a coincidence. The fact that something was in a certain place at a time and space is not accidental. Everything is connected. So, inevitably, in the work that I do, you will see a lot of connections. You will just see a lot of connections. Some of which are obvious, some of which are not obvious, but great Indian writing, of which there are not too many samples, are not read. They are not read. Great Indian writing is reread. I was telling Sushma today, there are people who will read the Bhagavad Gita, who will read the Mahabharata over and over again. Every day they will go and they will read a chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and they will do it for 40 years of their life, and they'll tell you with complete conviction that each time they read it, it's like new. It's like new. There's something new that reveals itself. So that art of writing has disappeared, that art of reading has disappeared. But one thing for sure you're getting from me is authenticity. That definitely is what you're getting. So those are some of the literary things. Now there is a literary error which Anamika ji caught. Yes, it is lunar, it's not solar. That is certainly correct. Uh, so now let's move from some of the literary aspects of this chapter to the character. And it's pretty clear that there are three main characters in this. There's Vidya, and the Vidyadhari clan is a very legendary clan in India. Very legendary clan. They were thought to have siddhis, as Sushma pointed out, and so she is a descendant of the Vidyadhari clan, and so obviously she, Vidyadharis were in Kashmir, and she obviously represents all of the great things about her clan. There is obviously Arman, and you can see the one mistake that Vidya made, which she confesses, which nobody here talked about, but I want to highlight, and a mistake that Arman has made continuously through his life. The mistake that Vidya makes is when she is being quoted by Arman, she gets so enveloped by him that she completely forgets her friends, doesn't share anything about what's going on, and then just surprises them and says, I'm getting married to this guy. Arman, of course, doesn't share his life with anybody. And so this basically the story says if you're not sharing your life and you're not talking about the key things in your life with your five best friends, ideally, then you are the loser because of it. Because we all have blind spots. We all have blind spots. And very clearly, up front in the book, we have taken the position that the mind is a frenemy. The mind is a friend, the mind is an enemy. How do you counter it? You have five good friends and you share and you talk over the really important things in your life with them. She made that one mistake. It cost her dearly. Arman has made that mistake continuously. He never has talked to anybody about his life. So we've talked about Vidya as a character, we've talked about Arman as a character, but
I have a question there. You think she
yes,
was drugged by him because her thinking changed? Until then, she was a smart woman.
no, the drug was love. I mean, she was being courted by him, and he could be very charming. Don't forget, he could sing. Women,
A big deal.
most women, if if courted by a man who's the richest man on earth, who's very charming, who's very attentive, wants to know what you're doing in your work, because ultimately his plan was to steal her knowledge, and who can sing to you. That's one heck of a great package of the surface, right? He didn't need to. He didn't need any
No, I
drugs.
think
No,
that was her weak point. She did not know. She really did not make a right decision that time. That was a
she did.
disaster in her life. I think
It was a
that
big
was her.
disaster.
That is her dark spot in her.
It's a big
Yeah,
disaster.
she was. She
And
got.
she says, I
He
made a
was. He
mistake.
was very rude. No, he was very rude to her from day one. I
Yes,
mean, just on the first date, he's saying you're nothing. So I don't know.
yes, yes.
But anyway,
He,
yeah,
and
this is
she,
true.
she didn't share that with her friends. They were told her, they were told her, he's just being nice to you. But his nature is going to one day surface and reveal itself. So
Yeah.
she made that mistake. And of course, Arman is just a continuous state. But the last paragraph is the most revealing about Dawn as a person. And uh, that's why Dawn basically does not get phased. And who wants to read out the last paragraph? Can one of you just read out that last paragraph? Because we're doing character studies, so let's read out. Who wants to read out last paragraph? Sarga 3.
The last paragraph of Sarga 3 at the very
Yeah,
end.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. My mother looked me squarely in the eye. Whatever murderous instinct he has in him, you don't possess it easily. But you have more, not more. In you, there is Niti, your superpower. Also, never forget that in you, there is me.
Yeah. So what does that reveal to you about Dawn, the person?
She has
What it
choices. I think that's
yeah,
what it. Yeah.
yeah.
And
Well,
maybe
basically it's saying to Dawn, look, you have a murderous instinct in you. You can kill. You can kill. You're a killer. Mother is basically telling her, You are a killer. That's in your blood. But mother is also saying, you have me in you. So you can also be life giver. You can be a taker of life, but you can be a life giver. But what is her superpower? Her superpower is niti, which is the right conduct of life. The right conduct of life. So ultimately, her superpower is the right conduct of life. So that is what her mother, who knows her better than anybody else, tells her. So these are the three characters, and the tension has been built between them. But some of you commented that mother was very curious, not about what Dawn was saying about her first meeting with the Pandavas and everything else, but she was very curious about what Kira was saying. And at the moment Dawn said, hey, they wanted your permission, is it okay? And then the mother relaxed because the mother obviously was very paranoid that it shouldn't be one of Arman's schemes. So there are two things going on there. Two things going on. Mother, being a Vidyadhari, instantly recognizes what that Maina bird is. She instantly recognizes that. And so she is very curious because she understands that the goddess has manifested herself in front of her daughter. So she understands that. She instantly reads that right. But why is it that that asking for permission was so important to the mother? It is because of this reason. One can also ask the same question in a different way. Which world is real? Is the world that Dawn is physically living in real? Or is the world when Dawn is in a world where a cognition twin is going around real? What is the real world? What is the dream world? And here is the answer. The answer is in the dream world, you don't have agency. You don't have agency. When you dream, the dreams come out of your memory, bits and pieces, but you don't have agency. In the real world, you have agency. You're a karta. So by giving permission, asking for permission, basically what is being asked for is to be able to grant Dawn agency in that world. Mother understands that. And she says, yes, now I know. This is not a fake scheme of Arma. Mother is present, but Jiva is being asked for agency. So that Jiva with agency is Swatantra and can make decisions and be an actor. And if Jiva can have agency, then that world becomes as real as this world. Got it? Okay. Now we move to some of the other things that, yeah. So look, the Kashmiris maintain that time was born in Kashmir, and in the book and the story, I revealed that. And in fact, every year, the in the old times, the Kashmiri priests would gather under the mountain near Kramasara, and that's when they would release the Jantri in November, which is when roughly the birthday happens. And that release of the Jantri with the planets and everything in it, and then, of course, what the coming year would be about, replicates the first time was born when Brahma reveals the planets, the configuration, and lays out what the world will be about. So, yes, we maintain that time was born in Kashmir, and of course, the birth of time is announced by Kala Chakra. Kala Chakra is the wheel of time, the wheel of time. And then, of course, the description of the wheel of time is given in the story, and every year the wheel of time appears, and people celebrate the birthday until one day the wheel of time won't appear, and then that's game up. So yes, we proudly maintain that our our land is the land where time was born. Uh, so the last piece is that I think many of you were struck that bits and pieces of history uh, get tied to the future, and that's how people sort of carry their cultural markers, and that's that that's pretty normal behavior. People place these cultural markers, uh, but and tie history to the present, to the future. So I would not be surprised if one of you someday become a great scientist, or your children, our children, become great scientists, and they do, um, for example, I'm an investor, a small investor through our younger son in a company where they have a cap. They don't call it Kalposh, but it's a Kalposh cap. And then this cap does biofeedback, and then they claim all kinds of miraculous results come out because of this biofeedback cap. And I think just last week, one of Elon Musk's companies got approval to implant a neural link. And so it's not that far away. The Shikha neural link is it's the beginning of the end. It's really happening. So I think I've covered most of the points. Why don't we go around for one last round? This was, as I said, this was a cocktail of rasas. There was uh, so much happening here that I commend you all for reading it, and just flow. If there are things that you don't understand, just flow. And one day you'll come back and reread it, and you'll say, now I understand. This river was renamed somewhere between 2000 and 3000, and a new name was given to it. And there's a lot there to be discovered, and you will come back and discover it, and it'll give you, it'll give you more pleasure. So any last one? We start with you, Shruti, and then we can just do the last questions or comments.
Sure. I think one line I kind of enjoyed reading was where Dawn thinks to herself that my total experience with men, and that two boys, was all of one day, and here I was, the daughter chastising the mother. So I kind of enjoyed that emotion she was feeling, where she's like, oh, what do I know? But I'm sermoning my mother anyway. So.
I think she's navigating her, like she knows she's judging and yet she doesn't want to judge, and that's the conflict that's in her mind. She wants to hate but knows it's not the father, and which is why even as a reader you get like agitated with so many emotions together. Like, what do you want to think?
Mm-hmm. So that was one, and the second thing that that I remembered I wanted to mention later was the observation was very interesting during the debate between Arman and Dawn's mother Vidya, is where she says that you know, and the whole concept of chaos is in inanimate things, and where you have life there is order. That was a new idea to me. Like, I had not thought of things that way. So that's something I'm going to kind of think over maybe on my rereads again, what that means and its significance.
Yeah. But none of you commented upon that earlier story about of an earlier Dawn whose father, Banasur, basically imprisons her. And that story has happened under Hari Parvat. And, so before it was named Hari Parvat, it was called Pradyumna Hill, because Pradyumna used to live on the top of the hill. And then, of course, he goes through the mountain down into the nether interior, and he rescues Dawn. So there's something there in that story that's just being planted there. And that too has some implications. Okay, who wants to go next?
I could go
Any
next,
last thoughts?
Rakesh. Sorry, I don't have the video because I'm trying not to distract you all. What is the significance of the poem by Pandit Gopi Krishna on page 53? I mean, it's a beautiful poem, but I want to know what is there something I'm missing? So I thought that was beautiful.
It's a beautiful poem, and you should definitely, when you read about Pandit Gopi Krishna, and get Terry Degler and read about his works. But basically, the poem is simple. It basically says Arman is all about the mind, and she's all about consciousness. So she basically says that that's what I believe in, that's what I'm a seeker of consciousness, universal consciousness, Atma, Paramatma. That's what I am a seeker of. He thinks amplified intelligence, she thinks unified life. Unified life is consciousness. So the poem basically is her being a seeker, and how do you seek these higher truths? You seek these higher truths by reading mystical poetry. That's where she's saying that's where you're going to find the ultimate truth, in mystical poetry.
Okay, thank you. And this is my last question. What is the significance of what looks like is it a yantra? Like that drawing that's on at the start of every sarga, at the top, and it appears sometimes in between the chapters as well. What is that about? Is it a crown or a different representation of a crown?
No, I think it changes for each prakrama. It changes. I think it changes. Yeah, it changes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, let's save that. We'll discuss that whole tantric thing at the end. We'll discuss the tantric visualization. It's a. You can look at it and just look at it, and we'll discuss.
It's like a yantra. It's like a yantra for each syllable.
Yeah, it's a yantra.
They make the syllables. Lam, it has a different trikon and all stuff.
Yeah. So basically, it's it's there are three main sections in it, three main pakranas. The first yantra is for the body, the second yantra is for the mind, and the third yantra is consciousness or life energy. So you can just stare at it. First one is body, second one mind, third one consciousness. Stare at it and see if somehow you can pick up elements there that represent the body, the second one the mind, the third one consciousness. We'll discuss that at the end. Who else wants to make any last comments or questions?
Okay, go
No, go ahead, Artiji. Please go ahead.
Okay. My question is, when the mother says that Dawn has the Niti superpower, right? And that's something which will help her make a choice or have a sense of discernment of what's good or what's bad or the right conduct.
Yeah.
If she knows this about Niti, did she not possess it, or did she acquire it after? Does one acquire it? Is it already there, and we are just clouded with our own biases that we lack it in that awareness? Because she clearly knows about Niti as a superpower. So is it just only few people possess it, only Dawn possessed it, not the others? I'm also thinking if the other five, Tig and the others, possess that, or they don't possess it, and which is why Dawn is made to be the leader of the group, because she has that as a superpower and maybe everyone else doesn't.
Okay. Great question. Every time when you read anything, you have to ask a very tough question. Why am I reading this? What am I going to get out of it? Well, there are lots of things you can be doing. You can be packing up right now and accompany Amrita to Alaska, right? So the claim that this book makes is that after you read the story, that you will become a Niti warrior and you will unlock this superpower. It's a superpower that's available to everybody. It's a superpower that very rarely do people unlock. In fact, we have lost the ability to unlock it because now we don't read and we are not told Niti stories. We are fed stories that are empty calories, junk food. Go watch Bollywood, go watch Hollywood. Nobody reads. Nobody reads. Nobody reads. People read Facebook and think we've done our reading. People don't do deep reading. People don't listen to Niti stories. But the promise of this book is that after you read it, you will become Niti warriors. You will, and what does it mean to be a Niti warrior? What it means is very simple. The whatever problem you have in life, the promise of Niti is that there is a Niti solution. And you will learn the technique. You will learn the technique of how to find that solution. Just like a river that is blocked by a rock inevitably finds a way around the rock. You will find ways around every problem in your life. That is the Niti claim. So yes, you all have Niti powers, but very few awaken because they don't know, they haven't heard, they haven't read Niti stories. So we'll see at the end of this book reading whether you all agree that yes, we understood what that Niti power is. And you'll understand it as you watch and travel with Dawn and you begin to see the stories that she reads and not reads, that she experiences. I think the first Niti story uh, that you will
Is in the
hear is in
next
the next Sarga, right,
next
Sushma?
one, yeah.
That's right.
Mega.
Mega
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
Yeah,
उसमें है. Mm.
yeah.
I read
That
that chapter. It's
that
beautiful.
is the beginning of the awakening of your superpower. Beginning of awakening of your superpower. Okay, who else wants to
So
go next? Go ahead. Who wants to go next? Any last comments? We'll
Yeah, I was
hear you.
thinking her father is really an evil person because knowing that it is his daughter's birthday, and then you picked up, then it was all the women were like killed basically on January 19th to 2990. So it almost is our January 19th. It's our Exodus. So I think it just feels that you put that date there because it means a lot to a lot of us, that date. And then what a sick, horrible person to kill all these women on his daughter's birthday, knowing that it's her birthday. So she must be, I mean, what does she feel about her father, knowing this guy is so evil? And at some point she's going to encounter him. And so haven't read further, but still that felt very scary for a girl of 16 to know that her father really is such a demonic person.
Yeah, so look, it's purposely designed to evoke these kinds of reactions in you, right? I mean, great, great villains are designed to evoke that feeling. So Ravan, I mean, Ravan is a goddamn genius, just like Arman. He's also a cannibal. At least Arman can say, I'm not a cannibal. You remember what Ravan says to Sita the last time he goes to see her? He says, my dearie. He uses the word, my dearie. My dearie, I've had enough with you, enough patience. Tomorrow, you will be mine, or I'll tell the chef to cook you and I'll eat you. Because Ravan is a Rakshas. And who's a Rakshas? What is a Rakshas? Did anybody tell you what a Rakshas is? A Rakshas is a cannibal. So all these great characters, these villains, they are horrible. They're horrible. And this man is horrible. But none of you commented on the fact that he's horrible even to men. What do you think he did with the men? What do you think he did with the men?
He just reduced them to reaction.
He
Yeah.
first clones them. He
each of them.
clones them, wipes out their memory, injects the shikha, gives them a completely new memory. So they are the walking dead. The women are dead, but the men are walking dead. Right? They're no different than zombies. This is not a nice man. And the whole idea is this. If Dawn can face such an evil, trust me, there's nothing you will encounter in your life that is as big as this. So you'll be able to conquer any problem you have in your life by becoming a Nikki. All right. I think Quincy,
Thank you.
Sushma, any last comments?
Thank
Nirja?
you. Thank you.
All right. Okay, I think this was really a big chapter in terms of moving forward in the story. A lot happening in Dawn's life, and you guys are firmly in her world. And now you have a poem that you can sing on New Year's Eve. I'll read it out to you. I'll end on this note. I live in the year 10,000, me part spice and part khand, flying high and swimming underwater, hangs out your beautiful daughter. She's singing, Big Bada Jalod Bhava, come drink my kahwa. Happy New Year, Yara, no place like Kashmir. Big Bada Jalod Bhava, come show me your paisa. Happy New Year, Yara, no place like Kashmir. So, good night, folks. Have a great one, Amritaji, in Alaska.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks, Rakesh ji. And I feel like the more we read about Dawn, the longer the sessions are going to become, I feel, which is a good thing. So yeah, with that, I will be in Alaska next week this time. So if I don't join, just the regular, just make sure you access the meeting with your registered email ID, and you should be in. But I will try to read while I'm on. I'm traveling. I think I will have some time. So, anything else? Anybody?
Are you going to see the Great Northern Lights?
Northern Lights are only in winters, so maybe if I go south to Patagonia, maybe I will see Southern Lights there. But this time I'm only going to see some icebergs and do some cruise and some kayaking, some summer sports really, like rafting, and maybe I should stop recording here.
No, this is important. This is the